guys, Anne-Marie here, and today I'm sharing my take on the July 2023 sheetload of cards, and we'll also be using the next item on my list from the 2022 Spellbinders Advent Calendar that I've been working through. You can find the July 2023 sheetload of cards from Call Me Crafty Owl's YouTube channel. It's a really cute design, and it's really clever because it kind of gives the look of matting and layering, but it's actually very few layers, and you really only have to mat one piece, or if you want, you can actually choose not to, which is what I did on my batch. I just picked a high contrast paper instead of solid cardstock for my sentiment panel, and I chose not to mat it because it, again, contrasted enough. And since I used a solid sentiment, die cut sentiment, that provided kind of enough separation for my eye. All right, so first of all, I picked out some paper I knew I wanted to use, which is this black and white polka dot, a black with chalkboard text, and a black and white gingham. So I reviewed the sketch and the measurements. I'd already pulled out this paper. I wasn't sure how much paper she was calling for yet, but I already kind of wanted to use these pieces. And when I looked at her measurements, I decided to skip the first sheet of solid cardstock. And I used that third sheet of pattern paper instead of the second sheet of solid cardstock. So I just completely skipped matting it altogether. I was going to do it with white scrap cardstock and just decided to completely forgo it. Next, I cut down all of my pattern paper following the sketch measurements, and then I assembled my background pieces from those. So as I cut these, I sorted them, into piles, the A pieces, the B pieces, the C pieces, and I kept them in order so that all I had to do was pick up the first piece off of a pile when I was assembling and just go down the assembly line. You can see here what I meant about it looks like it's matted and layered, but it's not. I'm just directly adhering these pattern paper pieces to my card front, but it's giving the impression that I've matted them all on white. It looks like I've cut a big block of the text paper as my larger mat, and then I cut a strip of the polka dot paper, matted it on white, and then put that on top of it. And that isn't what happened. It was just 3 separate pieces that you're sticking directly to the card front. So I really liked that it was kind of an economical way to use paper, and it's just really clever. Then it was time for me to cut my sentiments after I'd assembled all of these backgrounds. So I wanted to use the Spellbinders Advent Calendar for You sentiment. It does have its own mat. That was another reason why I didn't add another mat under the sentiment panel. I just didn't feel like it needed it since the sentiment itself was matted. I didn't, however, I decided I wasn't going to use the For You sentiment on all 12 cards. So I used just a kind of generic Friends sentiment for my stash for the other half. But this For You sentiment, I really like the size of it. It's a nice, perfect size for a card, nice and big, and I love the font. This is from day 16 of the 2022 Spellbinders Advent Calendar. I just used scraps of pattern paper from my scrap bag to cut out all of my sentiments, and then I ran those through my Xyron. I assembled and glued them all down, and I glued them along the little strip. I think this was piece D in the sketch, and I used that as kind of a grounding element for those and just ran them right along at the top of it. And then I used more of the same scraps to punch a bunch of different butterflies to add kind of a round and little finishing touches in groups of 3 around my sentiments. I tried a few different ways of arranging this, generally always ending up with some sort of visual triangle, some sort of combination of big and small. But there were different variations. Some of them I tried to center, some of them I placed off kilter. The sentiment panel itself is a little bit off kilter, asymmetrical, and sometimes I really leaned into that, and sometimes I didn't. And those are my 12 cards. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'm not sure yet when I'm going to be able to post again, honestly, if it's going to be next week or in a couple weeks, But I do have plenty of other videos if you'd like to check those out. And in the meantime, I hope you have a scrappy, happy week. Bye.